All right, welcome back once again. This video, we are going to bring in some Bootstrap. We're going to kind of set up our landing page for our application, do a little bit of CSS styling, just really to put ourselves in a position just to kind of deliver a better user experience. I think when we left class on Wednesday, looking at that version of the finished application, really what we saw was just text on the screen, really no styles. The purpose of this activity is really to stay focused on introducing some JavaScript. So we're going to really do some light CSS touches, and I think it's really the power of something like Bootstrap. It gives us the opportunity to get some decent looking styles with very minimal effort, which is really the situation that we're looking for here. So I think the first thing I want to do is get rid of some stuff. I think I already deleted from the video some of the CSS and JS stuff. Let's delete that hello world. Yeah, I already deleted that. Just deleting any of the test stuff that we did, just to give us back to a clean slate. So I think the first thing I want to do is go to my browser. I already have a Bootstrap website up here at getbootstrap.com. I want to get started. I want to copy this link. And just like it says, I want to paste it into the head before all other style sheets. So I'm going to do that, and I'll do it above ours just because we want ours to take precedent in case we have any conflicting styles there. I think I'm just going to clean this up. Let's put some comments first. I'm just going to put Bootstrap CDN, so that way we know which one this is. I'm just going to put some spaces here just to get this so it doesn't wrap. Collapse this. Put this on a new line, put this on a new line. Yeah. And then in this one, I'll just put something like our style sheet, and I'll just be consistent with it. I'll drop these down, even though it's not wrapping too far, at least I'm consistent there. So it looks good. So this will now give us access to our Bootstrap classes, so we can use those elements on our page. So I think what I want to do is I want to get a Jumbotron. It's definitely something I want. So I'm going to go to Components, find Jumbotron. Here we go. So this is kind of the element, the gist of what I want here. So I want to get that on our page. So I can see I can wrap that in a container class. I think I'm going to use this container fluid class just to kind of wrap everything on our application. So I'll start with in the body, just giving myself a div with a class of container fluid. And now that I did that, it might not actually let me tab through. It doesn't. Let me do that again. So I'm going to give myself a div with a class of container fluid, and that'll give me a div like that. And then we know a Jumbotron is a div that has a class called Jumbotron. And that should give us, let's at least make sure we have success there. So really that should just give me a full width container for my application that everything's going to live in. And then I'll have a Jumbotron, which I think just has some gray background or something. So let's just make sure that's working. Open this in a new browser, and yeah, I have my gray background there. So that looks good. So let's just add just some basic stuff in here. I definitely want a main heading, so we'll call this one an H1. And we'll call this Welcome to Bootstrap Rock, Paper, Scissors. I'm going to give myself a horizontal line here. I want to give myself a subheading, and we're going to just have the rules to play the game. So in here, I want to have a ordered list. I can obviously have a ordered or unordered, but I want to have an ordered list because I want the numbers, and I'm going to give myself a list item. And I'm just going to kind of spell out the rules here, right? So we'll say first is rock, and it wins against, let's just put this in bold. It wins against scissors. It loses to, this in bold too, paper, and ties. Again, well, we know a tie, so we don't even have to do that. So we'll just do that. Wins against scissors, loses to paper. Okay, I think I like that. So I'm going to copy this and just do this on another line. And one more. And we'll just go through our different options. So we have rock first, then we have paper. So paper wins against rock, and it loses to scissors. And that means, oops, let's keep this lowercase paper. We know we have scissors next, and it wins against paper, and it loses to rock. Is that right? Rock beats scissors, right? Loses to paper. Paper beats rock, loses to scissors. Scissors beats paper, loses to rock. Okay, that makes sense to me. So let's save that, make sure we're good there. Yeah, okay. So we definitely probably should have just tested our heading first, but again, looks like that worked correctly. I have my horizontal line. I have this rules heading, and I have this ordered list, which makes sense. Those rules don't actually have to go in order. Probably an unordered list actually makes a little bit more sense, just because like it's not like they go in order. Yeah, that makes more sense. The last thing I just want to give some directions, like actually how to start playing the game. I think when we saw this on Wednesday, it had some text on the screen that just said something like press rock paper or RPS to get started. So we'll save that. Cool. So yeah, that's kind of be my direction. So I think from here, you know, what I'd really like to do is just some low-level styling. I mentioned this before. I don't want to spend a ton of time on the styling, but like, you know, like this thing should be centered. Probably this thing should be centered. Maybe some padding, you know, or margin around this actual container here. You know, maybe some color, just a couple little things. So we'll kind of start chipping away at that. So I think what I want to do first is I definitely want to add a little bit of spacing here at the top. I don't like that this is touching the top of the screen. That doesn't look good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my CSS file. I want to just put a little space around the whole page. So I'm going to target the HTML element itself. I can also do body here. It would be the same effect, but I'm going to do HTML. What I'm also going to do is going to put about 30 pixels of margin just around the whole page. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, just to kind of move that down, move it in a little bit, just to give us a little breathing space. Next thing I want to do is I want to just center these. I'm not super concerned about this. I feel like that's fine, but I think these two should be centered. These are kind of like our main things, right? We're welcoming them, and this is like our big call to action. So I think here, you know, if we go back, this is a H1 and this is an H3. So I could just go in here and just do like H1, H3, and we could do like a text align center. And that'll work. But I'm just worried, you know, maybe later in the application we use an H1, we use an H3 again, and I may not actually want it centered. So I'd rather find like a parent of those elements and just kind of target them. Like I want all the H1s and H3s in the Jumbotron to be centered. So I think what I'd like to do actually here is instead do dot Jumbotron and just the H1 and H3s that are there. So I'll save that and refresh it. And again, it's not going to change, but you know, this way, if I have an H1 or an H3 that's not in there, that's not inside this div, so like if I put one outside here, we shouldn't see that centered, right? So it's still going to be over here. So it's not going to kind of break the rest of my classes, which is what I want to do. So we'll delete that, and we know that's good. So I think the last thing I want to do is, let's just do a good job of putting some comments in here, right? So this is going to apply to the whole page. Here, we want to target multiple headings inside the Jumbotron. And I think the last thing I want to do is I want to, you know, just apply some styles to the H3. So I think what I want to do is in here, let's target just that H3. And let's actually just put an ID on here just to kind of do something a little different. So let's get this H3. I'll put a class on it. Let's give this a class of, actually, you know what? Let's do this. Because I want to put a box around this. So let's actually do something like this. Let's put a div on here with a class of heading. We'll call it container. Just call it whatever we want. But we're going to put a little div around this. I'm going to put that back inside here. So now I have an H3 inside of this div called heading container. And that's really what I want to target. So we'll target that. Let's just look. Did this change at all? Yeah, we got rid of that, but nothing else changed. So what I want to do here is I want to target that heading container and the H3 that's inside of it. And I think what I want to do is I want to give some background color to the H3. So let's give it like a blue, no, not black, like a blue background color. Let's see where we're at. Yeah, so that is because this element, a heading element, is going to be a block level element, so it's going to want to span the whole length. So let's actually make this a inline block element, so it will only take up the space of the content. Yeah, cool. So that's good. Now, though, you know, we're no longer going to be getting centered, right? Because that H3 isn't a child of Jumbotron; it's a child of this heading container, right? So instead of H3, let's target the heading container. Cool. So it's back to being centered. I think we probably need to make that color like not black. So let's make it white so you can actually see it. Let's just kind of put some padding just around it, nothing fancy. And what we at here? Looks good. Yeah, and I think that's kind of just stands out a little bit. I mean, you can argue it's not the prettiest thing we've ever made, but it kind of gives it a little bit of just style, just a little bit of something to look at. So I think that's a good place to kind of leave us for now, where we at least have a landing page. You know, this is kind of communicating what's going on. We're not just jumping into the application. We have a good call to action. And again, I think this puts us in a good position to have some success here. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to save this. We're going to push up this second folder to GitHub. And then when we come back, we're going to kind of continue on our styling, continue just using some of our Bootstrap classes, and get ourselves ready to start jumping into the JavaScript portion. So with that, I will push this up to GitHub, and I will see you in the next video.